Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's Michael Edwards here in the Northern Affinity. We're back on our live on our Facebook page and our LinkedIn page today. Hopefully, there's lots of you watching live, but I appreciate a lot of people do watch it back a further date. So this again will be on the various social media platforms. We also host it on our website as well as our YouTube page. So thank you for everyone who's joining, whether in live or recorded. I'm pleased to say that today I'm here with Stewart Harper. And you can see from the little headline across the bottom, we're going to talk about compliance for company directors. It's an area Stewart is obviously an expert in. So I'll start off. One thing for everyone, anyone who is watching it live, if you do have any questions you want to put in or comments, please put them in the various chat boxes on the wherever you're watching it, and I'll try and put as many as I can to Stewart and go from there. And if you are watching in pre-recorded, again, something similar. If you want to put questions, I'm sure we'll look at responding to them on the platforms as well. So I'll stop talking. I'll hand it over to you, Stewart, to introduce yourself, what you do, your business, and all that kind of thing, and then we'll go into some questions.
Well, first of all, Michael, thanks very much for having me today. It's a great pleasure to do it. My business is Cardno Management Services, and it's been going in one form for a couple of years, but really it's been 2020 that I've started to think about what it is that the business is going to be and going to do. And the reason I've focused in on this year is, like everybody, trying to think about how I can support businesses and how I can respond to what is really, we use the word unprecedented too often, I think, but particularly at the moment, these are unprecedented times. But my background is in governance, and that can mean so many things to so many people. But really, for me, it's about making sure that businesses, first of all, are compliant, but also that they use the structures that they've got available to them to move to the next level. And so often you find that businesses get to a certain stage and then get stuck. And that might be a different stage for different organizations, but it's about using governance and using the tools and expertise that others can bring to move the business to the next level. So really that's what Cardno Management Services is all about. I work a lot in the education sector. That's been my professional background for about 20 years. In universities, but also in schools and colleges, and really what the business is there for is to provide that assurance to directors that they're doing everything they need to do to free them up then to be the creative, to be the force behind their business that they started the business to be. Nobody ever started a business in order to fill in more forms. And to tick more boxes. They did it because they're a fantastic marketeer, or they're a fantastic website designer, or they're a fantastic this, that, or the other. So I try to free people's time up to do that.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you, Stuart. That's given us a great background to yourself and also what you do. And just a reminder, I know as a few people have joined us since that I did a little introduction. If anyone has any questions around this, please do put it to us. So I'd be interested, Stu, obviously you mentioned about the business and yourself, and before we kind of go into a bit questions about governance, why did you go down the route of setting your own business up and doing what you're doing?
To be honest, Michael, there was a fork in the road, really. There was a fork in the road just in terms of leaving the job that I was in, and also thinking I wanted to do something different, and I couldn't find what it was I wanted to do. What I knew I really liked was a portfolio existence. That's what I'm aiming for in many respects. So when I looked at what I liked about what I'd done in jobs before, it was when I had that variety of doing different things on different days. And what I found myself less effective are those working days where I knew what was coming right at the beginning. And I've been in jobs right at the beginning of my career, where I could tell you 6 months ahead what I'll be doing every day. And that meant, first of all, and most of all, it meant I wasn't effective. I wasn't doing the best job I could do. But the jobs where I've been most successful and got most out of is where I was doing different things and working with different people. So I reflected and thought about it and thought, well, actually I've got some knowledge and expertise that I can offer in terms of governance and compliance, regulation and everything there. And also that there's a pain point for a lot of people running their own businesses. Starting a business is relatively easy. In fact, it's very easy. It's filling in a couple of forms and writing a check to Companies House. That's about it. But once you're running the business, making sure that you are compliant with all of the expectations, particularly as that business goes through scales of growth, that's much more difficult. And if I can take that pain away, then I can offer something to businesses which I think is of value.
Absolutely. I think probably a lot of people who've got their own business will reflect and look at themselves in very similar type of stories and the reason why they are doing what they're doing. So kind of just want to ask about governance generally. I think maybe if you're on the outside of it, like I would be, and I'm sure people watching it, it's a tick box exercise. It feels like you have, stuff you have to do, but it doesn't seem like there's a benefit to you. Now, I know that's not the case. So I know every business is different. But generally speaking, what do you find the benefits are to businesses to getting that stuff right over and above just not getting in trouble?
Yeah. Well, obviously there is that legal expectation first of all, and it comes back to the idea that when companies are incorporated, they become a separate legal entity. They have a legal personality, and the idea is that if you're going to have that personality, then there needs to be a level of transparency. Now, I actually think in this country we've got the balance reasonably well, that as a company grows and therefore that company has the potential to enter into much greater, larger contracts, much greater impact in what it does, then so the expectations of transparency increase, right through to the FTSE 100, where the expectations are huge that any significant decisions are notified to shareholders and to the market. But you go back to the beginning of it and you think, well, actually, when you're a very small business, how are you making sure that you are not just being compliant, but are using best practices? So I think for a very, very small business and for a single owner operator, then actually you've started this. Let's say you've started a website development company. Yeah, you can probably just tick the boxes. Yes, you can probably use your accountant to just fill in the forms. And frankly, you probably won't lose out hugely by doing that. But will you grow? Will you develop in such a way that allows you to take the business to the next level? And you look at successful businesses in all sectors, they're built on collaboration. And that's where I think governance comes in, because I'm working with clients at the moment who have got, they're successful businesses. They're talking 25, 30, 35 million pound turnovers. And they're successful on any model. They've grown their businesses from nothing to that. They're earning good profits, etc., etc. But what they're saying is, look, we want to go to the next level. How can we do that? Well, actually bringing in externality and people either from within the sector or from outside the sector that can say, let's look at this in a different way. It's more than just ticking a box. So as I say, for the small businesses, they need it, but they can do that in a different way. And organizations, this is why I'm attracted to the Northern Affinity, is that organizations like the Northern Affinity provide that sounding board, that collaboration, that opportunity to test out ideas and theories in a way that a large company has through its board. But it's that group in the middle, that group that doesn't have anybody to sound off the ideas. So let's look at the challenges we're facing at the moment. No business would fail to benefit from having somebody looking from the outside and say, have you thought about? In many respects, I think governance is the ability to see the wood for the trees. you raise yourself up a little bit. You look from a more strategic angle rather than simply, have I got the orders out today? Am I getting the order book through? Am I getting the number of customers that I want? Am I getting the repeat business I want? All of that's massively important. But until you can step out and say, but actually, what's my strategy for the next 12, 18, 24, 36 months? It's only at that point that you can start to be successful. That's where governance comes in, because if you've got a trusted group of people and you've got some mechanisms for providing them with the information that they need in order to make those judgments, then you've got something really positive to demonstrate.
Oh, absolutely. I'm really interested. You mentioned obviously the kind of very new, small, micro type businesses that, okay, might not be the ones that you work with, but obviously some of those move to the next level. And like you said right at the start, there's a kind of a point that there's an issue that stops them growing.
Yeah.
Something that, if someone watching now who is a small business owner can start to do now, whether it's small little things to help them so that it's easier in the future to scale from that point of view. Is there any kind of hints and tips that you could maybe advise for anyone?
Well, first of all, from the simple compliance perspective, writing down what your decisions are. I think it might sound daft, but writing down why you're deciding to take certain decisions, why you're deciding, for example, to loan yourself money from the business or repay a loan to the business or pay a dividend or anything like that you're taking from the business. Get into that habit early doors that, I have very engaging board meetings with myself. I am the only director, and I'm having, I don't actually have the meeting, but I am writing down the decisions that I'm taking. I'm not talking pages and pages, but I am talking about the sorts of decisions that if you were a bigger company, who your bankers are, what you're doing about your accountancy and things like that, to remind yourself that the business is separate from you as the individual. Then as the business starts to get bigger, you're into that habit already. But what I would say to the micro businesses is collaboration is crucial. And we've had this debate in various fora that actually knowing what you don't know is really the first trick of running a successful business. Recognizing what you do know is probably what's led you to start the business in the first place. But actually, when you've got to the point of recognizing, well, actually, I'm not an accountant, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not the other, but I'm going to go and source people on a freelance or whatever basis to support me in those areas, that's when you start, I think, to give the opportunity to fly. Not that you couldn't do some of those things yourselves, but actually, are you spending more time that could be more constructively spent? And in the early days of a business, when you are looking at every penny, it's very difficult to justify that. But actually, that investment up front of saying, well, actually, I'm going to go and buy in the resource to do this. And I've made that mistake. That's why I don't have a website at the moment, is because I've tried to do it myself. And I believed the adverts that told me I could write a website for $24.99 and it would be live within 10 minutes or whatever it was that they promised me. And yes, I probably could write a website, but it wasn't going to give me what I needed. So now I've paused that. I'm using LinkedIn, and I'll go back to that, but using somebody that knows what they're doing. And we're all, I think, guilty of that. So if we start at the beginning by recognizing the decisions that we make to build those foundations, use the collaborations that organizations like the Northern Affinity can provide. But also, if you don't want to be part of something formal, and obviously I advocate that, but if you don't want to be, just having the one person that you trust that you can talk to say, I've thought about this, what do you think? Now, be careful that they don't end up becoming a director of your company that you still drive the decisions. But at the same time, making sure that you've got somebody that you trust to sound your decisions to, even just the act of saying to yourself and trying to present it to somebody else, that act in itself can drive better decision making.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, it's something I fully subscribe to, the idea of people who know what they're doing the things that they know what to do. Because we've all got limits and on our abilities and time and all that kind of thing. And I'm a big believer in that as well. So, I'd love to know a bit more about the work that you do with businesses, and kind of what type of companies you work with in terms of size, even location, and kind of, I suppose, generally what problems are you solving for them?
So I think location is, the simple one is location is not a problem anymore. This new digital world that we're working in has many advantages. And, the last few months have been very difficult for lots of people, but there are some positives that have come out of it. And the ability to work digitally is one of those. What I tend to work with businesses are those that are maybe been trading for a short period of time and are looking to grow either quickly or over time, and want to put a structure in place that allows them to grow. Now, in some cases that might be a board, in other cases it won't be, but what it will be is structures like risk management. Let's take risk management as an example. So how do they formalize? And we all manage risk every day of our lives. That is what we do as business owners. We're looking at, the risk is that I will, lose a major client. Well, how do I mitigate that? Well, first of all, I make sure I've got a pipeline of clients so that I'm not got all my eggs in one basket. But at the same time, I make sure that I've got agreed KPIs with those clients, that they're content, et cetera, et cetera. We're doing that all the time, but the act of formalizing that into some form of a risk management approach helps us to look on a monthly or a quarterly basis and say, have I really done the things that I said I would do to manage this particular risk? Am I any better off in terms of managing the risk of cash? Am I any better off managing the risk that my main client will disappear, or whatever else we perceive our risk to be? So I will work with businesses of any size, but actually where they're most effective is when you've got a layer between the founder and the floor. So long as you've got a flat structure, I think the person that's founded the business is reasonably confident that they know everything that's going on, because everyone's reporting to them. But as soon as you bring in a manager that sits between the floor and the manager, the managing director, say, you've already introduced this idea, and this concept of agency. It's a concept in law around, how well do individuals act on behalf of the person that they're acting for. So are they acting entirely in the best interest of the company? And even if they don't know it, not always is that they're not always doing that. They're often doing things that will protect their own positions or whatever else it might be. So when you've got that layer, that second layer, that's when businesses need to start to think about assurance and say, we're going to put a mechanism of assurance in place, be that looking at data, be that talking to staff and individuals on the bottom floor, on a bottom level at a regular point, or whatever else it might be. But the more layers you put in, that as you grow, the greater and the harder that top point has to see the bottom of their structure, and therefore how do they see really what's going on in the business.
No, absolutely makes sense. I mean, one last question for me, actually, moving kind of, you've mentioned the word collaboration a few times, and as you know, it's a big thing for me as well, something I believe is really important. So who for you are good people to collaborate with as a business? Because obviously we all have business types and size and all that kind of thing, that we not necessarily that we are customers, but quite often we can work alongside. So for yourself, who and what are the type of that work well?
The businesses that I think I collaborate well with, and that we as a business can work really well with, are professional. On the one side, the professional advisors, the lawyers, the accountants, the auditors, and anyone providing professional advice to a business, and they may identify things that they want to show. and that businesses want some support with. But also anyone involved in strategy and developing strategy, that how do you, once you've got that strategy in place, how do you then make sure that you're delivering that? And the board's responsibility, the primary responsibility of the board, is to set the strategy for the business and to let the managers get on and do that. Now, once you've set a strategy, how are you then assuring yourself that what's in that strategy is what's being delivered? So I think there are some interesting collaborations. I won't name names, but some individuals in Northern Affinity who we're having conversations with at the moment about how do we do something together, because we think there are some really interesting tie-ups. And I think there are some very interesting ones around people that are coming to sell businesses as well. If people are looking to sell the business a little bit further down the line, they don't want to think about that 6 weeks before they're ready to sell. They really need to think about it 3 years before they're ready to sell, because they want to be able to show that sustainability and that the business is not just them. So they need to think. They need to think about what it is that they can demonstrate. And again, talking to people about that at the moment, and how I can work with business owners who are looking to sell in the medium term to put that structure in place, so that when they come to market, they've got something much more sustainable. And same's true with businesses that are looking for IPOs and other equity routes, because if you've got that structure in place, if you've got those foundations in place, you're a much more attractive proposition to the market.
Absolutely, Stuart. Thank you for that. So yeah, just finally from me, if anyone obviously wants to get in contact with you, find out a bit more about what you do, what's the best routes? I know you've mentioned a few things already, but if they do, where can they get hold of you?
Well, the best route, Michael, is through LinkedIn at the moment. The website is a work in progress, piece of work to do over the next 2 or 3 months, because my hope in the new year is to launch a new way of working, because I think there are a lot of businesses that don't know what they don't know. So there's a piece of work, I think, there, and what we're hoping to go out to market with in the new year is more of a sort of subscription model. That's not the only way we're going to work, but it will allow businesses that don't necessarily want to go in for a big piece of consultancy in one go to build themselves in slowly, and we can work with them on a sort of drip feeding some of the things they need to think about, like risk, like conflicts of interest, as 2 examples. So the website will be a prime focus for that. But in the meantime, yeah, LinkedIn, reasonably easy to find. The profile picture is reasonably accurate of what I look like. So if you see me on the screen, you should be able to see me on there. But we can put the link in with the video.
Yeah, absolutely, we'll do that. So thank you very much for your time, Stuart. Really, really interesting. Obviously, I know some of the great work you're doing. So yeah, thank you very much for your time. And obviously, thank you for watching. And for whatever reason, if you can't find Stuart, obviously let us know. We've got all his details, and he's got a profile on our website as well. So yeah, I'm sure between some of them we'll be able to connect people. So
yeah, and look, if people want to just pick up the phone or drop me a note and just want to have a conversation, I'm more than happy to have no commitment conversations with people, because it's through those collaborations that I think we all learn and we all develop. So very happy to do that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stuart, and yeah, thank you for your time, and thank you for everyone watching.
Thank you.